Today we're talking all about the stats from April 2023 in Hamilton, Ontario. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me. It is an absolute pleasure to have you tuning in, whether you are watching or listening along this week. First off, what do you think has been going on? Have you been watching this market because things have been getting a little bit crazy? I'm curious to know, do you feel like things are picking up? Do you feel like they're slowing down? What are you feeling out there? Please let me know. My name is Justin Little, and I'm a local real estate agent from Hamilton, Ontario that loves making educational videos about the market. Now, if you like this video, be sure to pop a like on it. That way it puts it in front of other people that could benefit from this information. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and join my growing community. And lastly, if you are looking to get a hold of me, you can use the link in the description below to book a call with me at a time that is convenient for you. So let's dive into this, the monthly stats. I have last month's stats too. I just want to compare them here. Actually, I think, yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect. So let's dive right into this potential or residential average price. So it looks like the average price in Hamilton has crept up to $806,000. Last month, it was $793,000. So we've seen a couple percent increase there, which doesn't surprise me because the last few weeks of April alone, I pretty much went into competition on every single house that I showed. And even my listings that I've had that we priced for competition, we ended up getting competitive bids on them. So I do notice that the prices have been creeping up. Again, if you were waiting for the bottom, you missed it. It was January and February. If you're still waiting for the market to crash and you're sitting there on the fence, the longer you wait, the more you're just going to end up paying for a house down the road if you buy one at all. So I recommend, if you are looking, things are starting to pick up because if you were followed my videos last year, you'll notice that we just saw prices decrease. So finally we have some increases for a couple months in a row here. Let's look at the sales. So total sales was 644 units compared to 624 last month. So there has been a bit of a bump in sales. You're going to see that it's an 18% year over year decrease, which doesn't surprise me because this is when they started to really ramp up. Well, they didn't really ramp up the interest rates, but they were starting to hike them. So people were still buying while they had pre-approved mortgages at lower rates and they had lower rates locked in. So we did still see quite a few more transactions in May than we typically would. One thing I want to point out when they talk about the sales actually in our board stats here, while inventory levels are higher than ultra low levels seen during the pandemic, they remain over 20% lower than what is traditionally available. So we're seeing less sales, and then we're seeing the inventory hovering around the same because new listings was 930 last month. It was 928. So pretty much the same amount of new listings came on in April that did in March. So that didn't really increase. The sales didn't really increase. So it makes sense that the inventory is 1,022. The inventory in March was 1,019. So pretty much the same. Sales stayed the same. New listings stayed the same. Inventory stayed the same, but prices went up. So when our supply levels are all the same, but prices are going up, what's that telling us? We got buyer demand coming back, which isn't surprising because, like I said, everything's been going into competition. Yesterday alone, I showed 6 properties and every single property was holding offers, and every single property is going to get competition. Now, keep in mind, it's not like they're pricing them at market value, holding offers and getting 10, 15 offers. They're taking a house that's priced probably around mid sixes, 680, something like that, pricing it at $599 and holding offers. So they are getting multiple bids because they are underpricing it again. If you completely miss the market from 2015 to 2021, I guess, or start of 2022, things were nuts. Competition was going like crazy. And I'm a little bit concerned with all the competition that I see because this is happening while the interest rate is still at 5%, hovering around. I mean, you can get a little bit lower if you're doing a 5-year fix right now, but to see people competing at these interest rates, the minute we start to see a decline or a rate decline from the government or from the banks, I think things are going to get even crazier and we could return to the market that we saw in 2021 if there's no other government interference. But let's jump back into the stats here. So months of supply, 1.6. It was 1.6 in March as well. So that hasn't really changed. What this number means, if this is the first time you're watching one of my market update videos, what this number means is how long it would take every single house on the market to sell, assuming no other properties got listed. So 1.6 months is considered a seller's market. This is how we determine whether it's seller's, buyer's market. Anything 0 to 3 months is a seller's market. 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 is a balanced market. And then 5, 6 plus is considered a buyer's market. So right now, 1.6, we are full swing seller's market, which if you have been looking for a house, you're definitely feeling it out there because we are getting just tons of traffic on everything. If you do have a house that isn't getting a lot of traffic, while everybody else is, it is still possible. You have to understand it's still possible to have an overpriced property in this market because although people are competing, they're competing at houses that are priced aggressively. They're not competing on houses that are listed at or above market value. So again, it all comes back to that listing strategy. Average days on market, 23.1 days compared to 27.6. So houses did sell faster last month. And I have a feeling in May, I wouldn't be surprised in May if this number dips below 20. Let's save that. I'm going to bookmark this, just this part of the video, because I want to see if we do actually go below 20 just from what I've been seeing these last few months. So 23 days on market, it is starting to decrease. Now let's break it down: detached, semi-detached, row, apartment. So compare it month over month. They got year over year here. So the average price of a detached, this is actually our biggest increase, went to $901. Last month it was $871. So $30,000 was the increase month over month in detached, which I believe it, because detached is making a huge comeback. Right now is actually one of the most amazing times to sell your townhouse or your condo and upsize into a detached property. The reason being is that the gap between the two is so much smaller compared to where it was 2-3 years ago. Like we're talking, let's look at rows. We'll skip semis. Let's go to rows. 718,000, which was 727 last month. So these actually dipped down, but 718,000 to 901. We're talking less than $200,000 to go from a typical townhouse to a typical detached. Now in the peak, this gap was closer to $400,000 or $500,000. So the jump to get out of a town into a detached was very high. If the market continues on the path that it's going on and we do end up seeing a reduction in rates at the end of the year, this gap is going to get so big. Like there was people that couldn't make the jump in 2021, and that's just going to return unless there's more intervention from the government. As well, side note, I also wrote down here, I noticed that the government actually came out and stated that they are nowhere near completing the amount of units that they had planned to build to keep up with immigration. I don't know if you remember, they did that study last year. They had to build like 1.5 million homes or whatever. They're nowhere on track for it. They're not even close to it. So again, we're not seeing the supply. The supply's pretty much stayed the same, and it looks like there's not going to be a new creation of units. So if the rates end up going down, just supply and demand, we're going to see these prices really jump back up. Let's look at apartment compared to month over month. 497 this month, in March, and in April 497, and in March 458. So condos actually had a pretty big bump as well, which doesn't surprise me. That's entry level pricing, anything 500 and under, considering that to get into a detached or a town, like you're 700 plus, which again, I mean, I could talk at length about why, if your budget's only 500, you should buy a condo instead of buying a detached house. Maybe I'll actually make a whole video about that. That's a great idea, because I feel like I talk about it every time I do one of these market updates. So that's what I'll do. I'll make a video for it. Anyways, yeah, I think I've said everything I wanted to say about the stats. I have this whole PDF here. If you are interested in receiving it, it's got tons of fantastic stats broken down by neighborhood and all that. If you're more curious about what your house is worth or what's happening in your neighborhood, I can definitely email it to you. Just reach out to me. I'm happy to send it over. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in again this week. It is always a pleasure to see each and every single view on the video. I love it. I love all the love I get. Be sure to leave some comments as well, because I love hearing from you guys on things that you want to hear about or things that I can make videos about. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you again next week.